Alrighty. Hello, hello. All right, so we are live on YouTube now. Okay, all right. Okay, so hi everybody. Thanks for joining. We're excited to have our alchemist Suhaizal here. I hope I pronounced your name right. Did I
Yep.
pronounce it right? Okay, perfect. So yes, very thankful that he's doing this workshop for us, just to teach you a bit more about Covalent, the API, and a bit more with Python as well. So we're going to be seeing some demos, which I'm pretty excited. So I won't take up too much of the time. So Haizal, I would love if you could give a quick introduction to yourself and also what people can expect during this webinar. And if you guys have learned anything, please take a screenshot and share it on social media. I'll type it in the chat of what to tag. And also, if you can put your social media handle in the chat too, that would be lovely, Suhaizal. But yes, I'll let you take it away.
Right. Good morning, wherever you are. My time is 12 here, midnight. Thank you for attending this session. Turn off my video a little bit. Right. I started off my career as in software engineering. So most of the time I do application development. But then I moved into data and works my way up to data engineering works. And then somehow in 2021, I bumped into Covalent and joined some of the activities that they offered in Covalent. So yes, so today what we're going to do is I'm just going to share what I have learned in Covalent uh, in using the API that we have in Covalent, Unified API. And we'll look at two different ways of accessing this. One is by using the REST API, and the other one is through the use of the SDK. So first and foremost, this is as everyone would know, this is the Covalent platform. You can get this by signing into Covalent and sign up for an account, and then you will get an API key. So all access to the Unified API requires an API key, which you can get by registering with Covalent at covalenthq.com. So you start off with a free plan, and of course, if you are interested with this, you can always explore the premium options and sign up for this one, right? The SDK, for example, takes there are three different approaches. You can use TypeScript, Python, and Go. For this session, I will share how it looks like when we work with Python, because that is what I have been working with so far. And I will also share some of the work that I have done before, just to share how it looks like when you try and work with this data from the Unified API. So I don't have any slides for today. I'm just going to go through and run through the notebook, Jupyter notebook. So I'm not expecting anyone to have any Python background, but if you have any programming background or some basics in Python, that would be really, really good, right? And it will allow you to follow this easier, I believe so. And Python is a very, how would I say, structured and easy language to start with. And that's why Python is really, really popular amongst a lot of people. And the libraries in data is a lot. So you can use a lot of those existing libraries to work with data. Right. Um, Here is using the Covalent REST API. So for this example, I will be working with gas prices. So how do I get the API for the gas prices? So it's you can get this from the Covalent Documents website, right? Go here and this is a documentation of all the available APIs, and it will provide us with the necessary URLs and um, some samples of how you can make a request through this. For example, if you go to the shell portion of this, you will see what is the URL that we can use to make the request. And this one is using curl. So if you're in Linux, for example, you can use and copy this and run this immediately. So here, I already have my key. So what I'm doing now is I've loaded the key into a text file. So I can just read this text file and load it into the notebook. If you are interested, you can also um, download this same notebook, which I have uploaded into GitHub. GitHub. I'll share the link later. So this section of the notebook loads the API key. Easy. Just load this so we can check its the values of the API key. And this is my API key for now. So yes, if you use this now, you'll probably be using my credit. So yeah, but I'm gonna disable this and create a new one afterwards. So feel free. Um, so using the REST API, we have to use one library in Python, which is called the request library. Request library. It's a very common library that we can use when working with web request, right? Details of this library, I can suggest a few websites. For example, in real Python, this is not an advertisement. I'm just sharing some of the good resources that you can use if you're looking into learning this request library. So realpython.com, Python request gives some really good examples on how to use this, right? Extensive ones. And the request library itself provides very extensive documentations on how to use the library itself, right? It's on request.readthedocs.io. Okay, proceeding with this. So this is the Jupyter Notebook. If anyone is not have not experienced this yet. Okay, so running this, play this, right? And then the URL, based on the URL that we picked from this one from here, right? I added that into this. And of course, there are two parameters that we must fill in. One is the network type, and then one is event type, called event type. So the network that I've chosen for this example is ETH mainnet. So of course, there are a lot of different networks. You can use Bitcoin, you can use Phantom, and a few others that we have in Covalent platform that are being supported. We have about 40 plus network that we can support. So this one creates the URL, string URL. So it combines this with this, and it extrapolates the string with the actual value. So no, we're just generating this. So just in case if you want to change this to some other network, you can just change it here and change the event type, or change the event type here. For example, you can change to Uniswap or native, and it will create the new URL for you, right? And this is to just specify the headers for this. Now, we want to have a JSON response. So by default, anyway, it just returns JSON, right? There are also other types of responses you can get from the platform. For example, you can also request CSV. We'll look at one of this as well in some of the examples later. So let's do this headers, right? And then this is the actual request. This is the actual request using the URL that we have built here, right? This is API covalenthq.com for ETH mainnet for ERC20 gas prices. Get gas prices, and we use the basic auth and put in our API key in, so that it is required for us to access any of the platform API. So once we execute this, okay, it's done. Response provides a few object. There's a few object in response that we've got from, right? There are a few values that you can have here. So one of them is JSON. So what happened is, whenever we have a response, right? And we want to view the response from that as a JSON. So you just request response.json. So it will give it will return to us the result as a JSON data set. So we can use this so as a dictionary in Python, so we call. And if you just look at the response, it says response 200, which means it is successful. So when you use REST API, there are a few different types of response types. Success is always return. Success will always return 200. There are other responses like 500, 400 for user types of error. I think one of the common ones would be 404, just not found. Also a response. For example, if you type in the wrong URL, whatever, and something like that, so you will get probably 404, right? So now we have JSON. So we can also have a look at this from text. So this is in text format, which means it returns plain text. So we have to parse this first so that you can read it in Python. So if we use this particular output from the response, we'll have to parse this with something like a JSON library will do. So JSON.parse and load string, and we can get this as the same as this one. So this is the same output as this. So that was in string. So this has been parsed as dictionary. So for this particular API, which is the gas prices, what happened is that it returns to us the gas prices, how much is spent, gas quotes, other fees, for last 1 minute, last 3 minutes, and last 5 minutes. So why do you want to get this? Is it allows us to actually estimate if we're building applications. So you can get these values and checks out what's the latest or current quote for the gas value, right? And you can present that to your user and decide later whether it's something that you want to spend now or later, or you can do some predictions, move forward and do this later, somewhat like that. So it returns this one set. So every time you make a request of this, it will change, right? So right now it's let's see, $1.83, right? So this is using the REST API, right? REST API. It returns. You have to do a lot more things here, as you can see. Okay, this is pretty much standard. You have to get the API key, and then we have to do a separate request. Apply for the basic auth and build a URL. You have to know the URL for us to be able to query the API is something that's common, and build up the headers and make a request, and then process the JSON, right? But I prefer this way better because I have a lot more control. Then I can see, oh, it's a JSON response. This one has been written as a dictionary, and I can work with this. So if we're using the Covalent SDK, so if you have never used the Covalent SDK, there's one for Python, and you can visit pypy.org and have a look at the project description, Covalent SDK for Python. Right? How do you install it? Just pip install Covalent API SDK. So this will install the SDK into your computer under your environment, right? And it also gives you a sample of how to run this. But of course, if we go back to the platform documentation, it's also here, right? Pip install Covalent API SDK, and how do you make a request? So it gives us a sample of this. But the only thing missing here, I mean, this is where we can work on this together and improve on this documentation, is that what is the output of print B, right? Print B data. When I first run through this, I was like surprised by what it presented to me. I was expecting something different. So it gives us something different. Maybe I use it wrong, but let's go through and see this, right? Using the Covalent SDK, it is much simpler. So we just have to use the library from Covalent, import Covalent client, as pretty much I'm just copying and paste it from this one, and then removing the definition of main, the function here, right? I cheated a little bit, so yeah. And instead of putting the key directly, I'm putting in the key as a variable, which has been loaded up here. So this line is pretty much the common one here, loading the API key from the files. And we can initiate this using this. This is creating the instance of this Covalent client, and then make a request. So as you can see, from a developer perspective, this is much simpler and pretty much developer oriented. So you just have to know what objects that you want to call. It's a base service, and on the base service, get gas prices. So you can see from the documentation, this is a base service, right? Get gas prices. So it's pretty much mapped one-to-one from this documentation to the SDK, right? Right. And the rest, the first argument is the network, just is mainnet, and we can supply the event type, just in this case ERC20, right? And if not error, print b.data, else print b.error message. So there is no error supposedly, right? So what happened here is b.data is an object, right? It says a gas prices response object at here. So it's gonna be how we can use this is let's explore this object of B, right? So b.data. So you have in B, the class, the instance B, we have data, we have error code, and error message. Since there is no error, just if not b.error, so we don't have this. These are all empty, right? So we must have data, right? So b.data, and these are the attributes on the b.data. We have base fee. We have same values that we have up here in the string, JSON string, the JSON data set that we receive from the REST API. So they are both the same. The difference is when you use the SDK, it will return to you as an object that you can explore, right? For example, these items here is a list of JSON objects, but here it's a list of objects. So they are both the same. They are both equivalent, right? So if I want to see what is the base fee, see if this one returns the correct one. Yes. So base fee is 81375 Kuei, which is we can look at base fee here. This is slightly different because the time has changed, right? So base fee is different. This quote rate, quote currency, the values might be different because of we have moved in terms of the time. So that's why it's different, but those are the values. So we have the base fee, and we also have the base fee here. Some other data, let's say items, right? I was expecting something like this to be listed out, but it's the funny thing. It still gives a list of objects. So you would have to, for example, see what is object 0. And it's yes, an object. So we'll have to explore the values that we have in object 0 for gas price, gas spent, interval time. So let's look at, we have 3 objects, right? 3 objects. Interval. So you see the interval should be last 5 minutes. Yes, right. It's here, right? This one, gas price. Let's look at whether this one has the same gas price. Yeah, slightly different. So it changes. Now it has increased, right? Different, right? So using this, if you're building a wallet or some other apps that you want to use this data set, so this is how you can get the values from the platform, right? Okay. There are a few chats. Let me check. Oh, okay. Right. No questions. So let's go ahead and on to the next one. Hey, thanks for coming, everyone. Thanks for supporting. First time here. All right. So that's the introduction to the SDK and the REST API. So pretty much straightforward if you look at it, right? That's nothing else. If you're looking at what are the URL for the API, always go back to documentations of the API, and this will give you all the things that you need to understand what is the URL, what are the parameters, and all that stuff. And you can also try them out here, right? Most flexible ones, very flexible. Okay, so I'm sharing something that I did before, which is exploring the RSK blockchain. So the topic here was given to me. This is the topic hash, and it was the block that starts from 1st of June until the end of June, so for a month, and the block starts at 339 and ends at 347. So this one is the same. Okay. So this same thing that we did here. This is where we load the API key. Right, load the API key, and again, how do I get the URL? I get this from here. This is get log events by topic hashes. So this allows us to get all the event logs of the same topic hash across all contracts within a particular chain. Cross-sectional analysis of event logs that are emitted on chain. So we can use this. Processing is real time. So be reminded that it costs 0.01 credits per item. Yeah, I've used pretty much some of this. Okay, again, by looking at this documentation, what is the URL? Here's the URL, v1 chain name, topic hash. And want to see the full URL, you can go to shell and it will give us the full URL. Right, so you can just copy and paste this and put it into our code. So again, I'm using the REST API. So now I'm just extrapolating the values of the variables into the URL, right? The URL string, and specifying the start block and the end blocks. How do I get the start block and the end blocks? You can get it from using the block heights API. Right? You can specify a start date and end date, and it will give you what's the height of the block at that during those states, right? So you can use that. So everything is provided. You just have to find out which one, right? So that will give you the start of the block and the end of the block. So every time we retrieve this, there's a page size, which is how many records that will be returned. So we're also setting the page size, and we're fixing the currency. Before this, we receive the result as a JSON. So now I'm requesting it as a CSV for the purpose of, I'm going to import this into Python pandas afterwards, and you see this, right? And then the key and preparing the parameters as this. This is going to take quite some time because I think it's going to be a very big file, right? So this is the part where we download the data set based on the blocks, right? So saying that for 1,000 records per page, it will just move on to the next block and the next block and the next block until we've completed downloading the whole blocks from here, the start block to the end block values, right? So I already ran this actually just to save time because it took quite some time to complete this, right? And it would be quite worrying for us to view this all until 3478606. Now, this section is this is defining a function in Python. So what we're doing here is we're just filtering out the transfers from only and select only the needed columns. So when this file is being downloaded, there's there's a few quite a huge list of this data set. There are a few columns and a lot of these rows may not be related to what we are looking at in this case for this particular experiment explorations. So this one has been downloaded as, oops, sorry. Have a look at this. It's df list. So df list is actually a collection of this items. So if you look at df list 0 dot head should do it. I think it's right. So this is example of one of this data, the raw ones without any processing. We just download them and parse them into Python pandas data frame. So it has this block sign at the block height, transaction offset, the log offset, the transaction hash, sender contract, decimals, the name, ticker symbol, sender address, and all this stuff. So we may not want everything. We may not want everything, right? So there's not a number. We can just remove this and all these values. So it says decoded signature, what are they? So we can drop some of these columns, and we only want to look at from transactions because we want to know how many wallets are there, right? So over on this side, what we are doing here, we're passing this function to the list of data frames and merge them together, right? Here we're selecting equals to from, decoded parent's name equals to from. It's decoded parent's name is it's here. Yep, this one. You have from, you have to, you have value, you have not a number. So we only want to know those that are from. So we're filtering this one out. So once we executed this, you'll see that this is the output. Yeah, this is the output. So now we are actually getting a subset of this column, and we are only filtering those with from parameters, right? So you can verify this from this output. So the head is a function that's available in pandas data frame to accept like a few of the records just so that we can see, okay, how does the records looks like, okay? Then right now this date is in UTC with Zulu time format. So I'm just going to remove the timestamp parts. I'm just going to leave it with the date itself, make it a little bit simpler. So this part is where we add a new column. Block sign add is the original one, so I'm going to add as a block sign date. So this is how we do it. Create a new column, and then apply this particular function where I extracted the date only from this value, from this block sign add column. Okay, then we look at samples. We sampled some of the result of this again, because this one applies to the same data frame. So it's the same data frame here. So now we have a new, so instead of together with the timestamp, we just have the date. Now, why did I do this? It's because when I want, I'm supposed to create a chart of this. So when we create a chart of this, we have to total up how many transactions in a day. So everything can be can be summed up into a single day using this method. If not, then everyone will have like it's the same day but different seconds or different minutes. Then you have like too many records that you want to summarize, you want to aggregate. So it doesn't work. Um, right, and then this section is, so we have all this, but the only thing that we need is actually just the block sign date, right? Block sign date, this new column, because it has the date and the coded params value. Um, yeah, this one, right? Is of no significant ones. You can also use this, but these are the ones with the address values, right? Because we want to know the unique addresses. So as you can see, decoded params type is an address. So these are all addresses of the wallets. So now we only have two columns. One is the date, and the other one is the address, the wallet address. And right, the next part here is we're going to plot a chart. There are a lot of charting options that we have in Python, in Jupyter Lab to be specific. One of the library is called Altair library. It's more of a declarative style plotting library, right? I use this because I'm more familiar with this when I was building this, right? Uh, so this particular option is because we want to plot a huge amount of data, so we have to run this, right? Uh, and then this particular data set, if we look at the record, it's actually, if you look at this FDF head, oops, no, types is D types, yes. So what happened here is, just to explain this a little bit, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this section here? Why do I have to do PD2 date time? Because when this column was extracted in Pandas data frame, it identifies the block signed 8 at, right, as an object. So when we extract it as a block sign date, and when we transform it into block sign date, it is also an object actually. So what happened here is when we try to plot this, Altair doesn't really identify this as a date, right? So we'll have to convert this into a date type data set. So if we look at this one, UF D types, UFDF dot D types. And you see this block sign date is now, it's a date, is of type date type. So it is something that Altair can work with automatically, right? And then this one builds up the chart, Uh, of course, you don't have to specify all of this. The most important part would be encode. That's it, and title perhaps, right? The rest you can just leave them blank. You can just omit them out, and we'll just use default colors and settings. But in this case, because we're using this, setting this is the width and height of the chart. So it says during those June of 20 and 21, RSK was still new at that point of time. So peaked just under 1,000 daily active users in June 2021. So as you can see here, which means quite popular at that point of time. It was beginning to pick up. So this was a daily transactions, as you can see. These are a unique number of wallets, right? And this is looking at number of transfers, the amount of transfers on RSK. same thing, using the same chart, right? Same chart plot. But we'll look at counting number of transfers, right? Oops. Oops. What did I do here? Okay, used the wrong data set. Try this again. Yep. Okay, they were over like near 50K in June, 15K. I think I've used the wrong one here. Could parents value block sign date temporal order? I've used the wrong ones. I think it's the same. This one and this one. Oh yeah, this is the same data set. Oops, I think I picked the wrong data set here. Okay, but yeah, I'll fix this afterwards. Not sure which one it is. So okay, yeah, I'll fix this. We'll fix this afterwards. Not sure why this one I'm picking the wrong ones here, because this is not supposed to be this. This is supposed to be summing up the number of transfers, right? I have to look into this into deeper how to fix this. It takes some time for me to look into this. Okay, that's all I have to share for today. There are any questions? If you're interested interested with any of this, I'll share the GitHub repo as well. Let me share that GitHub repo.
Hello, everybody again. Yeah, if you have any questions, just feel free to put them in the chats, or you can also use the Q&A feature that Zoom has at the bottom. But I will be gathering this information along with the recording. That way you guys have access to all of this and the GitHub repo, as you guys all mentioned, after the video is done processing. Anybody have any questions for Suhaisa?
So I've shared the URL of this in the chat. Let me also put it on the notebook, into the notebook here. So you can get this from visit this particular repo. Oops, sorry. It's expecting something different. Okay, yeah, that's it.
All right, perfect. Well, it looks like there's no questions, but I have copied that link that you shared. Oh, okay. It looks like, let me share it again. But I'll share it in the details for the recordings as well. That way you guys have access to it. So we have a comment from Vidato saying, no specific question, but wanted to thank you for explaining how to use the SDK object.
I think very few people are using the SDK and the APIs in our Alchemist. So that's why I think this one is something that I can share with the rest of the team. Hopefully it was useful.
Yeah, I think it will be. I'm excited to have this recording out. All right, so I wanted to thank you guys again for attending. So Hazel, thank you so much for your time in preparing all of this and willing to do a workshop for everybody. I'm hoping maybe we can do a few more of these in the future. And for those of you who are alchemists, I'll be sending an update soon on the new iteration of the program. But yeah, just keep an eye out on the announcements. And it's great to see you guys again. All right. Thank you guys, and thank you, Suhaizal. Have a great weekend, everybody.